24, then 25? And then 24, okay. Okay, so so I'll just run through the translation and the purport, and then I'll go on to 24, because that's the one that I was told. Okay, so the previous translation. O my Lord, sages freed from the influence of the three modes of material nature, sages such as the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sananda, and Sanatan, are able to think of you who are concentrated knowledge. But how can an ignorant person like me think of you? Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The word swabhava refers to one's own spiritual nature or original constitutional position. When situated in this original position, the living entity is unaffected by the modes of material nature. Sagunan samiti chetan brahma bhuvaya kalpate. Bhagavad Gita 14:26. As soon as one is freed from the influence of the three modes of material nature, he is situated on the Brahman platform. Vivid examples of personalities thus situated are the four Kumaras and Narad. Such authorities can be, by nature, understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but a conditioned soul, not freed from the influence of material nature, is unable to realize the Supreme. In Bhagavad Gita 2.45, therefore, one must rise above the influence of the three modes of material nature. Krishna advises Arjuna, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Naish Trigunyo Bhavajuna. One must rise above the influence of the three modes of material nature. One who stays within the influence of the three material modes is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So on to text 24. So that's translation. O completely peaceful Lord, although material nature, fruitive activities, and their consequent material names and forms are your creation, you are unaffected by them. Therefore, your transcendental name is different from material names, and your form is different from material forms. You assume a form resembling a material body just to give us instructions like those of Bhagavad Gita. But actually, you are the Supreme Original Person. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Yamunacharya has recited this verse in his Stotra Ratna 43. Bhavanantam evanu charan narantara prasanta nihesha manoratarantara kadaham ekantika nitya kinkara prahashaya yashami sanata jivitam. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent, eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? Manoratana sati davato bahi. One who acts on the mental platform must ascend to material activities. Material contamination, however, is completely absent from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure devotee. Therefore, the Lord is addressed as Prashanta, completely peaceful, free from disturbances of material existence. The Supreme Lord has no material name or form. Only the foolish think that the Lord's name and form are material. Avajananti mam muda manusham tanam ashritam. The identity of the Supreme Lord is that he is the original person. Nonetheless, those who have but a poor fund of knowledge think that the Lord is formless. The Lord is formless in the material sense, but he has transcendental form. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Om Agyanatamananda Shagananjana Shalakaya Shaksharan Militam Jaina Tasmat Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to take advantage of being in the assembly of so many august Vaishnavas, I'm going to ask some questions during the course just to get some feedback so I can get some real insight. So be prepared. So in the first paragraph, Prabhupada uses of the purport, he says constantly, permanent, and always. He says, by serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent, eternal servant, and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? So that indicates that the devotee has to come to the stage of being fixed in devotional service, which is nishta, which is Majjhima Adhikari. Srila Prabhupada said he wanted his disciples to come to the second-class platform as soon as possible. So the interim state is the anatta nivritti state, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains Kanishta is on the stage of anatta nivritti, the Majjhima Adhikari is at the stage of nishta, and that the Uttama Adhikari is at the stage at least of ruchi. So these are the stages. To get to the stage of Majjhima, 75% of the anattas have to be removed. So there's only a little bit left, and then we can push past the remaining anattas and get up in the morning. First of all, the Majjhima becomes fixed physically, then he becomes fixed verbally, and then he becomes fixed mentally. So physically is you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Then verbally, you're saying the right thing in the right time, in the right place. And eventually mentally, you're thinking the right thing all the time, appropriately. So at least we can focus on, okay, so I have to get up, I have to follow the principles, I have to do this, I have to do my service. And I'm bashing on now through the anatta nivritti. The problem with anatta nivritti is the anattas have to become unwanted. So to get to the stage of anatta nivritti, we have to get past the stage of wanting these. So we think we want these things, and then it starts to dawn on us, actually these things are giving me a lot of hassle, giving me a lot of problem, they're causing such an obstacle. I don't think I want these things anymore, So then we start anatta nivritti. Until then, we're not even on anatta nivritti. And then after bashing along, for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, by 15 and 20 years of steady devotional service, a devotee should be reaching the stage of ruchi. Because Bhaktisiddhanta was annoyed that all the sahajas were jumping on the Gopi Bhav bandwagon, and they hadn't even gone into the stage of anatta nivritti, So he was saying, why are they monopolizing what is really our rightful heir? We should be getting to the stage of wanting to do the right things and getting a taste and spontaneously being attracted. So interestingly enough, getting to that stage, going through the stage of anatta nivritti and getting to the stage of Majjhima, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says, I have been shoved around in this world without giving the world similar shoves. No one, neither can its ignorance be broken, nor its people attracted to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya. Those who do not get severely rough-handled by the Lord cannot worship the Lord. So that's kind of like a little friendly push along the way. You're at the stage of the anatta nivritti, and in comes a friendly push from the Lord, the friendly shove. It was interesting because we were on Harinam Saturday night in London, and one of the Matajis from Soho Street, she was just grabbing anybody that was standing there that was female, that was looking, she was just grabbing them and swirling them around, So that's like giving them a shove. It's done nicely, but at the same time, we're trying to stimulate people to take to Krishna consciousness. It's not a passive thing. It's Sankirtan is quite aggressive. Prabhupada said you should be like a lion on the chase when you're out there, and then a sheep in the fold when you come back. Very meek and humble. You wouldn't think butter would melt in his mouth, but when he gets out there, excuse me, you from this town? Because you don't stop people by saying, excuse me, I'm a little monk, and would you like a book? It's got to be quite, So I just thought it was interesting to be severely rough-handled, because I was reading just recently, Kadamba Kali Maharaj he'd been shot, and all his insides were up the side of the wall in this little toilet that he'd been shot in Vrindavan, and he fell out the toilet, and he couldn't speak properly, so he was saying, shot. And the Indian came up and he thought he was saying shock. He says, "Oh, you've had an electric shock." It took about half an hour to get it through to them that he was actually been shot, and he was thinking, I could die, you know. But I was just reflecting on it, that there's somebody that's just about to take sannyas. He's temple president in the holy land of Braj, doing, quite an intense service, giving everything he's got, and about to renounce whatever last attachments are there. And then there comes a friendly little shove from Krishna, you know. And he said it took him a year and a half to kind of assimilate what happened there and what the lesson was that he was supposed to learn, you know. So I'm thinking, well, there's somebody that's like way, way ahead of where I'm at, and he's going through that, so what have I got to go through to get to the stage of becoming serious? In fact, there was a really nice class by that devotee, Kartik Chandra, and he was saying punya. Actually, I'll come up with that comes up in a minute, so we'll speak about that. Okay. So then Prabhupada says later on, which is quite a heavy statement. Sometimes Prabhupada makes these really. You could have a book of Prabhupada's encouraging statements, and you could have a book of Prabhupada's discouraging statements. Like my dad, when he heard that if you just chant the holy name once, it will free you of more sins that you can commit in many lifetimes. So my dad started chanting. He was doing 8 rounds a day, back to bill. He was getting. He had a pair of back to trousers as well, back to bill. This is a job for back to bill. So it was great. But then somebody told him, he was at the temple, and somebody said, "Do you know, if you're not into it," or whatever it was, I don't know exactly what it was, but he says, "you could be chanting Hare Krishna for millions of lifetimes, and you're wasting your time. You could be wasting your time completely." So that was my dad's bead bag over his shoulder. Whew. No more chanting from my dad. So that was a discouraging statement for him. So you have these two kind of polarities in Krishna consciousness, the statements that really kind of put you off, and the ones that get you really fired up, you know. And we're kind of navigating between the two, trying to keep a steady flow of devotional service going, you know. Anyway, so toward the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, where's it gone? Oh, here we go. Mano rantanashuti davato bahi. One who acts on the mental platform must descend to material activities. So that could be seen as, that could be discouraging. So my question then to the assembled Vaishnavas is, somebody's out there, he's on Sankirtan, he's got a bag of books, he's a bit fried, he's got a hole in his shoe, his sock's wet, doesn't really want to be there, you know. Prasadam was lousy that morning, and no offense to the cook, but so he's not fired up, he's on the mental platform. So, or somebody may be performing arti, he's performing the arti, but he's looking at his watch all the time, and he's thinking, I want to finish soon, and he's very distracted. In fact, it looks like he's doing puja to the watch. There was one devotee that used to be here, don't know if you remember him, and I won't say his name, but he was famous for that one. He would go like that. And then, in fact, the bell kept stopping because he kept going. And you may say, well, look, he's doing arti, and you say, no, it's a completely material activity, because look at him, he's mental, he's totally mental, that guy. Whatever he's doing is material. So is that a fact? Is that a fact? Anyone like to answer that? You say, no, Prabhu, it's not a fact. Are you contradicting Srila Prabhupada? He's just said, here, you descend on the mental platform, you descend to material activities. Is Prabhupada wrong? Krishna knows. Yeah, that's true. Well, the thing is, you see, it's not black and white. I mean, if he was really completely 100% on the mental platform, it's like saying an iron rod. If you have an iron rod, you could say that the iron rod, if it's not in the fire at all, then it is completely just cold and it's dark. And the longer the iron rod goes in, the hotter it becomes. So the more spiritualized you become, the more you get off the mental platform, the more you can become spiritualized. The more you get absorbed in the service or the holy name, then the more you start to take on these glowing, hot qualities of the soul. So you could say that if somebody was completely mental, then he wouldn't be out there in the first place with the books or on there performing the arti. He would have to have some knowledge, which means there would be some intelligence being applied. It's like sometimes if I'm encouraging Sankirtan devotees, they're doing the Sankirtan, but they're getting no result. And I always try to encourage them that you've done 95% of the yogya. You've got out there, which is one of the hardest things to do. You've got your bag over your shoulder. You've got Srila Prabhupada's books. Wow, you are so close to getting, and the only minor detail is you haven't quite managed to stop anybody and get them to give a contribution for one of Prabhupada's books. But that's the 5% actually. The 95%, there was one devotee, he was going out for 20 odd years, and every day he did one book. Every day he was just doing one book, and he was trying like anything, all day. How did he do today? Oh, one book. And this went on for years, And then one day he went out, and he did 100 books, just like that, overnight. It just broke. But he was determined all the way through to just do that 95%. He knew he was close, and eventually he broke through. He got off wherever that little mental platform was that was stopping him, and then it tipped the scale, and then there he was, bingo. And the 100 books went out, and then it was 100 books every day after that, so far to date anyway. So that's the dynamic of spiritual life, is you have the extreme, really, really bad, the extreme, really, really good. We're somewhere in between, and the more we can get off the mental platform, then the more spiritual our activities can become. So then, Prabhupada goes on to say, nonetheless, those who have but a poor fund of knowledge think that the Lord is formless. So Kartik Chandra at this point came up in class yesterday. Mahaprasadi Govindai, Nam Brahmani Vaishnava, Swapapanya Vatam Rajam, Vishwasho Navacharite. So I'd never realized it before. I thought that verse meant get ready for prasadam and get your saliva glands running because it's coming soon, and see how much you can pack in today, That's what I thought the translation was. Anyway, lo and behold, it actually means Swapapanya means small, only a little bit of pious credit, a little bit of piety there. But by taking the Mahaprasad, by the holy name, Nam Brahma, and by the Vaishnavas, then that can become increased, we can build up. So, and it's an interesting dynamic I personally find of the false ego, is that when you hear statements that are in Shastra, the false ego filters the statements. So, personally, my immediate reaction, my false ego, is when I hear nonetheless, those who have but a poor fund of knowledge, is, well, that's not me. I'm not that's those with a poor fund of knowledge, That's not, I'm not one of the poor fund of knowledge guys. I mean, obviously Prabhupada means them. It's not me he's talking about here, And Prabhupada, in the early days, he was talking all the time about impersonalists, and the devotees were thinking, why is he going? What's the big deal? We're not impersonalists. He doesn't have to keep saying, we know Krishna is God. Don't keep. And then years and years later, after Prabhupada had left, they started realizing he was meaning them, because we're so impersonal, the way we deal with things, the way we do things. Prabhupada breaks down that material attachment. Attachment, fear, and anger, he breaks down in the purport in the Gita 4:10, I think it is. Attachment is negligence of spiritual principles. Fear is due to fear of a personal identity, and anger is born of the frustration of the conception of void. There's so many different philosophies, and he becomes angry and he thinks, oh, there's nothing. So so there's attachment there, there's fear there, and there's anger there, and this fear is something which is born of impersonalism, that we're afraid to be a person. We just want to go into the supermarket and not have to say anything, just press the button and it goes along the conveyor belt and it gets scanned in. Or you see somebody coming up the road, you don't want to speak to her, so you get on the phone quick, so I don't want to deal with this guy, I just can't face him, See, so trying to be a person means accountable. It means you have to follow your commitments through. You have to, what were you doing? Why weren't you there? Oh, I just merged. No, why? So people are afraid of being like that. Anyway, so Prabhupada was referring impersonalists, and so here, those who have but a poor fund of knowledge. So if the false ego isn't, if we take that very humbly, we can think, oh, well, I have a poor fund of knowledge. I don't have very much punya. I don't have very much faith. So therefore, I don't really accept that Krishna has a form. I do superficially, but if I really did, would I be acting like this? Would I be struggling with particular anarthas that I have? Anyway, one of the quickest ways to accrue this punya is to go and preach, to go and distribute, and we become engaged. The first person we have to engage when we're on Sankirtan is ourselves, and then once that person's engaged, then we can engage somebody else. You can't engage somebody else if you're not. You can try, but if you're not engaged yourself, it's really tricky. It's like trying to pull somebody in. You know, you're in the river and the guy's drowning, and you're trying to pull him in, but you're in the river drowning as well. In fact, they say that if you're trying to save a drowning man, the first thing you should do is break his thumbs, because the drowning man will generally drag you under. So you break his thumbs so that he can't get a grip of you, and then you pull him to the side. But if you're in there, I remember I went out with this one devotee once, and he was doing Sankirtan. He was new at it, actually. And he stopped this man. He went, "Excuse me, sir, did you know that you're suffering?" And the man said, "I'm not suffering. I've got a nice wife and a massive house, and you know, got a well-paid job, and I'm having a really good time." And he goes, "Oh, excuse me, sir, I'm really new at this." And then he turned around and he said to me, "You know, what am I supposed to say, you know?" And the man walked off, you know. So he wasn't really able to save the person because he wasn't on board himself, you know. So he would have just gone down with it. He probably would have ended up getting a job off the guy if he'd carried on speaking to him. So we have to be fixed, and that's why Prabhupada had the morning program. And then by going out, Prabhupada said, preaching means that you have to turn the rascals and unfortunate to become intelligent and fortunate. That is preaching. Unless they are fortunate and intelligent, they cannot take to Krishna consciousness. Now that's interesting as well, because when you go out there, you say, "Did you have a good day today?" "Yeah, bro, I met this guy, I smashed him, creamed him, really smashed the guy. He was with his friends, he looked a total idiot, smashed him." Did he take a book? No, he didn't take a book. Did he give a donation? No, he didn't give a donation either. But God, he had such a red face when he went off. I felt really good, you know, it made a total idiot out of him, you know. But that's not what Sankirtan means, that we're trying to engage them, you know. That's the goal. We're trying to engage them. If they won't do anything else, we say, "Well, can you say Hare Krishna?" "Okay, Hare Krishna." "Okay, have a nice day." And they go off and they've been engaged, you know. At least the goal has been achieved. You didn't get anything for your prestige that day, but still the person was engaged. So then we're accruing our punya so that we can gain a better fund of knowledge. Because fund of knowledge is not just repeating verbatim what we've read, but real knowledge is that what we've read becomes realized. And if we want to get that punya, like sometimes devotees, they go to the Holy Dham, and it's really nice. It's really like, oh, I'm chanting, and it's so nice, it's so sweet, you know, and everything's cool, and everyone's saying, Radhi, I'm just going to stay here, you know. I've seen devotees do that. I'm just going to shack up here next to the Jamuna, chill out, Paramahar Prasadam, Hare Krishna. I'll just drift back to Godhead this lifetime, no hassle, you know. But then after about a month, the punya that they've acquired from being in the West and performing austerities, the Dham stops rewarding them, you know, and it starts getting dry, and everything starts getting to be a trip, you know. Everything starts becoming a hassle. Everything starts tasting like boiled rice. Nothing's got a taste to it. There's no... And so then the devotee starts to become frustrated. So then we come back to the West, we perform our austerities, and then when we go back to the Dham once a year for our 3 weeks or 4 weeks, then again we get some special... We cash in our punya, and we get some nice realization, some nice taste, and then we come back and perform some more austerities. That's what Prabhupada envisioned the program should be, the annual program for the ISKCON devotee. Shishi, Radha Gokunalanda ki jai, Shiti Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. So, our ability to affect people is very much determined by our status. Are we Kanishta? So if Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that Kanishta when he meets somebody, he can awaken some Shraddha in the person. And if somebody is praying, then he can also give a person love of God. And if he's in between, then he can give a person taste. This is Thakur Bhaktivinoda. Devotees at the stage of love can give love to anyone. Devotees at the stage of ecstasy can raise devotees to ecstasy, and non-devotees to the stage of having a taste. And serious practitioners, not yet liberated, can give non-devotees faith. That's from the Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita. So the effect that we will have on somebody, a lot of the time, the effect that we have on somebody, I mean personally speaking anyway, is the person's a little bit pious, and he thinks, oh, he's a nice monk, and he looks a bit wet actually, I'll give him £1, you know. And you haven't really fired them up or inspired them or really transformed them by your Shakti or anything, but they just think, oh, well, he's out trying to do something, you know, give him £1, you know, he looks like a nice boy. So we're relying more then upon some last vestiges of piety that is left there, you know, in the Kali Yuga population. But it's not that we've really had an impact on them. So we have to kind of build up our status so that we can have a significant impact on people, that they get some taste, they leave and they think, wow, that was an amazing taste I just got from speaking with that guy, you know. And it's transformed me, you know, it's changed my whole outlook, you know. So the task ahead can seem a little bit overwhelming, but Prabhupada reassures one devotee in a letter. The devotee was feeling overwhelmed at this task we have to become good preachers and strict sadhakas. And Prabhupada says, by all means, we must preserve our spiritual status. This is in the letter. That is the point. Not that we are mad after big buildings, many devotees, life members, this, that. No, these are only ways to engage the devotees so that they may apply the principles of devotional living to some kind of work for practical realization of these principles. It is not the result of the work we want. If only one person daily, if we sincerely preach to such one person in a day, that is sufficient. Never mind big programs. So we have the big programs to engage, but really that's the essential consideration that Prabhupada saw. So interestingly, this all links in with the holy name, of course, like everything does link in with the holy name. And this is a nice point that comes up in the book Japa Meditations, which Danadar Swami put together. And then toward the end it gets really nice because it's all different devotees pooling in their realizations of doing these 64-round seminars and saying what they get out of doing them, you know. And then one section of the Japa Meditations is fundamental elements of attentive chanting. Being mindful of the goal, to consciously live perpetually in the presence of Krishna. Love of God is the goal of Japa. Distribution of love of God, Sankirtan, is the service expression of love of God. Japa purifies the heart for Sankirtan, and Sankirtan purifies our relationships. So what's interesting about that, I thought, was when you say Sankirtan purifies your relationships, what are relationships in devotional service? Dadati patiginati, goyamakiti pachati, bungtai bochai chi chaiva, sadvatin pratilakshana. That we give prasad, we accept prasad, we give a gift, we accept a gift, we inquire confidentially, we hear, and we also reveal our minds. So these living exchanges, they're going on Sankirtan as well, actually. That's what Sankirtan is. You go up to a person and you have a living exchange with him. You give him something, you inquire from him, he makes some inquiry from you, and then you give him some prasad in the form of a book or in the form of some type of mercy. You give them some prasadam, and they reciprocate. They give you something, they give you some service. Maybe they can't physically come and clean the floor for an hour, so they give their time in the form of some money, which represents time that they've spent to acquire that money. So they're giving their time in one sense, via the Lakshmi they surrender, and then they're engaged, and that's the exchange, the living exchange that's going on. And that living exchange it's not that we're devotees and all these guys out there are just animals, but they're all devotees as well. And we're going out to meet the devotees and have living exchanges with them. That's what it's all about, you know. So we have We have some living exchanges here, and then we spread it out. Just like that Harinam was really nice. It reminded me of the liquid analogy that sometimes the holy name is referred to as an ocean or a flow of love of God, and it had a very liquefying effect to it. That all the devotees were kind of going around in streams, and we went down the underground, and it was trickling out to everybody, and everybody was getting splashed by these waves of nectar, and they were brightening up and responding. And it was very, very sweet, to be involved in that. So that's all spreading the living exchange. We have living exchange between each other, and then we go and we spread all that. I remember when I first took to Krishna consciousness, I was in the temple room in Chaitanya College, and I was looking at the devotees, and they all seemed to be really friendly with each other, and I was thinking, that's what I don't have in my life. I don't have friends like this. I have horrible people that would stab me in the back if I did something, or if they could get a chance to exploit me. That's what I had. I was thinking it would be so nice to be in this Sangha, this association, and have these living exchanges. So I was very attracted by that, actually. Probably the most attractive thing, actually. Okay, so I'll finish with that. I'm sorry, I haven't really kept to it. I kind of rambled on a bit, really, but probably that's the symptom of a person on the mental platform. So, any questions or comments on that?